Thank you, listeners, for joining us. Today's Elko Live here on KELK is a time to catch up with our local lawmaker. It brings me great pleasure to welcome in studio our Assemblyman in District 33. Of course, we're talking to Burt Gurr. Burt, it's great to catch up. Thank you for being here today.
Lori. I appreciate it, as always.
Absolutely. You put a few more miles on the old pickup truck, and it's a busy season. Fortunately, we can just start off by saying you are running unopposed, which is a great vote of confidence, literally.
Truly is.
Yes.
Truly is.
So don't look for Burt on the primary ballot because he won't even be there. So, and then you can just check it off on in November because he won't have an opponent. So
And that's a great thing.
Yes. So,
although not really, Lori. I wouldn't mind having an opponent. You know, it brings a little balance to the discussion when you have somebody running against you. It does not. Government that isn't balanced is a horrible thing, and we saw that last session, and we'll probably see it again this coming session. So, I'm not ever afraid of running against anybody. So if somebody wanted to run, they should have got out there and we'd have seen whether we could get there or not.
Well, and Burt, that is an important issue as we were just settling in. You have not committed to other offices or other positions, even though people, appreciate your leadership. We've been talking about that because of the time it takes. But encouraging younger people or business owners, encouraging people to get involved, it's difficult.
Very difficult. It's hard to be a business owner or work for somebody and take 4.5 months out of your life, out of your business life, to be in Carson City. And it's not just the 4.5 months. After you're elected the first time, which takes some issues and some timing to do, you're on committees, you're traveling, when you say a few more miles on the pickup, from January to the end of February, I put 7,500 miles on. And I've been going not as much in April, but March and stuff, I guess I've got another 5,000 on top of that. Just trying to get around the district to meet with people and discuss the issues that have come forward since the session.
Wow, Burt, that is definitely a lot of miles. That's incredible. And you need to do that safely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you try not to drive at night. And
Yeah.
you try to stay off 93, but you can't.
Wow.
It's that district runs all the way down 93.
Well, I just have to say that is very impressive that you are actually visiting all the communities and you're representing the constituents. You're taking the time to travel to them.
Yes, absolutely.
Wow, that is impressive. Well, no wonder you didn't come up with an opponent because people said, "Oh, well, Burt was just here and we talked about that." So we don't need to send anyone else. So I guess in that vein, would annual sessions, do you think, resolve some of this? Should we pay representatives so that they didn't have to be there, abandon their businesses?
That's a really good question. I would think if we could get 60-day annual sessions and every other session review and repeal laws that are outdated, only pass legislation that needs to be passed every other session, get the budget work done in one session, and pull bills or laws that are no longer effective. Yeah, maybe. Pay more. The minute you say that, people just go nuts. It's a citizen legislature, but but the total pay for 2 years in session, $9,900. So that lends itself, when we do get per diem. So when you get all done at the end of the session, you get around $22,000 for the session. But then the next 16, 18 months, you're not getting anything unless you go to committee meetings, and then you get reimbursed for that. But if you raised it, I was headed somewhere.
Oh, we were just talking about how much expensive it would be. It would not be a citizen legislature anymore.
It wouldn't be a citizen legislature, and then the push would possibly be to have really seriously paid people. One of the senators that came out of Vegas, a Republican senator, freshman this last session, was a senator down in California. Their annual paycheck was $175,000, and they had a staff of 6 or 8 people. But it was like a 8-10 month session. I mean, they were in business the whole time, which is like the federal government. Of course, California, we don't want anything that represents California up here in Nevada. But that's what happens if you go to annual sessions. But it's just crazy because really the first 2 months of the session, We talk a lot. You hear stuff. You vote on some things. And then the last 2 months, you fight over everything. And if they could get the budget out of the way early, we could probably get some work done. But apparently there's a lot of bills that can't be passed until the budget comes out.
I think that, if I'm not mistaken, but I believe previous Senator Rhodes, was he not one that was a proponent of getting the budget done first, especially when it came to the education budget?
Certainly could have been.
Yeah. I think that was one of his missions.
You know, practical people see it that way. Let's get the money that we've got, and then let's see where we can spend it.
And then
let's not build things that we can't keep going and we can't afford. This last session, we spent a lot of money on, we collectively spent a lot of money on stuff that I don't know if we can even keep them going, because there was a lot of ARPA funds and COVID money, and who knows? We'll see at the next session whether we have to try and find a way to make it work.
Well, Burt Gurr, our guest, you're one of the last truly rural Nevada lawmakers, as we just talked about, putting several thousand miles in your pickup truck in the span of just a few weeks to get to your district. I mean, what about technology? We know that there have even been efforts to, say, move the sessions to Las Vegas, I mean, where the majority of the population lives. But is it important that you be there in person, or could we use technology more?
For the session, no, you have to be there in person, because technology is a limited time frame, and we do a lot of stuff on Zoom. The Republican caucus does a lot of Zoom meetings. We do a lot of that, and I've actually attended a couple of interim committee meetings on Zoom. But when you're out of the meeting and you're in the halls and you're talking to people is where a lot of this gets done. You get better understanding outside. You can't do it all on the technology we have today. It just doesn't work. You have to meet together. And moving it to Vegas would be a disaster. I mean, you can't get through Vegas in 40 minutes anymore. So it's just a horrible place to even think about having a legislature. That would have to be full-time, because it'd take you half the time just to get back and forth to the building.
Wow.
Yeah.
We should feel lucky that it is in Carson City, obviously.
Yes,
so there's still
absolutely.
Obviously accessibility. So, in speaking of isolation, Burt, we do know one of the pieces of legislation that you worked on and were successful, in fact, I believe it's ongoing, is creating this funding structure for our Air Alliance that we're now enjoying, the air subsidy and the airport bill.
The airport bill, we were partially successful. The structure was passed several years ago, and Pete and John Ellison, Pete Gokachi and John Ellison sponsored that bill. Nobody's funded it. So that's what we tried last session. We got $2 million for infrastructure, and at the last minute, and I've said this several times, the chairman of the Finance Committee in the Senate stood up and pulled $10 million out of it just on a whim, just because she didn't think we could afford it. And then within an hour of that, we spent $500 and some odd million on various NGOs and everything else, giving away money called the Christmas tree bill, which truly I had no clue what it was. Our leadership didn't inform us of it until after it happened. And I hate it. That's the part of the session that you really hate, is that bills come at you that last 2 weeks. They've suspended the rules. And I know I showed you the pictures of the amount of paperwork I had on my desk on the last day. And if there's anybody that's ever been in that legislature that tells you they've read every bill, they're nuts. And I don't care who hears this. You can't possibly. I don't care if you're a speed reader, any of that stuff. When you get 2 inches of paperwork put on your desk between noon and 8 o'clock, you can't read all of it. You can glance at some of it, and then you have to vote on it. So you're going, what did I learn about this? And then you can't cross-check because you don't have all the bills in front of you anymore. And
you don't know what's been omitted and what's been...
Well,
right.
and they're all amendments to the bill. So
Okay.
It's not new legislation, generally speaking. It's amendments to bills. But I could go on for days about how that disgusted me, how I almost didn't run again because of that.
So we are here. How's it going to be different this year, Burt? Do you feel better, different going into this one?
I feel better. I feel stronger. I feel more knowledgeable. I feel like I can fight harder on issues I didn't know. Now I know where the tricks are. Going in, I thought I was pretty well informed about how it works. I learned an awful lot in 4 months. And that's why I'm going back. I don't like to leave anything unfinished. And the airport bill's terribly important, and I want to keep pushing that. There's another bill I want to push real hard and see if we can get it done, and that's the keeping boys out of girls' sports. We've approached the Riley Gaines group to see if she can come in and help us with it. Well, I don't know if she's going to respond or not, but we need to get that heard, if nothing else. Just get it heard and see what happens there. There's some other issues out there that are coming that, just wild horses are going to be back. There's going to be a lot of issues come up, and now I'm prepared for them. Truly prepared. And we will see what happens as it comes through. And there's some other issue, another issue. Lori, I'm just taking the mic. Like I said, don't give a politician a microphone. Charter schools are coming under fire. Just recently, there's a sunset committee, an interim sunset committee. Actually, it's a subcommittee of the interim legislative commission. The legislative commission meets after the session to review the bills, not the bills, but the regulations that have been brought forth from the regulators. And that subcommittee that met 2 weeks ago, the senator out of Sparks, named Daley, Skip Daley, was on attack mode for charter schools, on the Charter School Authority. He was trying to, it seemed to me in the testimony I listened to, he was coming after them and trying to either say they weren't doing their job, or they weren't doing it legally, or there was some line of corruption in there. That's the gist of what he said. That's my interpretation. That probably isn't in the words. When you listen to testimony sometimes, or you listen to questions the guys are asking, you try and read where they're headed. And truly, I think Senator Daley is heading to stop the charter schools, to slow the growth, if not eliminate any new ones. It's an amazing process to listen to. So I don't think he'll get it done, but it certainly riled up a whole lot of people in Elko. Got a hold of me, and I met with the administrator of the EIAA.
Elko Institute for Academic Achievement, Lori Lynch.
Yes, and is that her name?
Oh, you made me think. I'm sorry. I may have.
The principal of the school.
I think Lori's the vice principal, and yes, I know who the principal is.
Yes, so do I. And
yes,
I was just looking at it this morning, and now my mind just goes. But we talked, and Demar Dahl brought me in to listen to it. And so I like to weigh every side of every story I can get. So I heard her side, and I thought, well, and she gave me a bunch of backup documents, and I've read through most of them. And I went online and listened to the hearing.
Yeah, what is the issue?
Mostly he's trying to figure out, I think what he's trying to do. Seriously, the issue is charter schools are competing with public schools. And he doesn't think that's fair and right. And he's trying to intimate that charter schools don't pay their teachers union wages.
Oh, that's the angle. Okay.
And Mr. Daley is a union representative.
Okay.
And his agenda is to make sure they're protected. But I think the Teachers Association, their union, the state union, is behind pushing him that way to try and curtail all of this stuff.
It'd be interesting to find out if they have an official position on professional staff in charter schools, because they have to fulfill all the same mandates.
Oh yeah,
they receive
that's all the backup I got from
DSA,
from,
distributive
principal.
School account money, and they just don't get capital. And that's
they don't get capital.
Right, and that's why here in Elko, we have the two schools. Well, the Nevada Classical Academy is ramping up. I haven't heard back, so I don't know if they got their charter or not. But they went in April, so yeah. So
well, and it takes time listening to the administrator of the charter school thing. It takes time to get them through. Mm-hmm. But I haven't heard either. But EIAA is just about to open their new building.
Right.
And I think that originally was what part of the controversy may have been about, was buildings. And did you use union employees? And did you do this? And
prevailing wage on that?
I think they paid prevailing wage.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. I know that's on the list because that's also something you worked on behalf of, the Boys and Girls Clubs.
Right.
And I know Boys and Girls has an opinion from a Utah firm, but it does come with plenty of caveat in there about the care of which you have to proceed with this, because you can get called out almost at any time on this prevailing wage.
Well, and I think that's where he was headed to. I didn't listen to the entire thing. I listened to it's a 3-hour committee hearing. The majority of it was all on charter schools, and it was all him, just that senator, doing the questioning. There was 2 other people that asked questions. The interim committees are small anyway, but they were not attack questions. They were general, trying to find out answers, and that's the difference. I mean, it's just, who knows where it's going to go. But charter schools are very important to us, important to me. I think it's a great learning process when you go into this one and you walk around and you look, and the walls are, classrooms are being held behind curtains, and everybody's happy and they're doing their job. And I got to speak at the one in Spring Creek. They asked me out there to talk about the process. Mm-hmm. And the rooms are just, everybody's learning. And I didn't see anybody unhappy in the buildings I was in. Nobody upset, including the teachers. They were all happy and everything was going good. So I think it's a positive, and it should influence the public school system.
Well, and I think that's part of the argument too, not having any public school folks here, but I do think that they all wish they could have the per pupil, the classroom size. And I don't know that it's so much about funding, Bert. I really do just think that they wish, because public schools they have to be so many things for so many people, right? Yeah. Whereas charter schools are smaller, they can focus in, they can have a specific mission, whether it's, the arts, or in the case of classical academy, they're looking at a specific learning style. Montessori schools, it's
all different, but it all adds to the ability of the general public to get knowledge, and that's the important thing. These kids need to learn something.
Talking with Bert Gurr, our local lawmaker in Assembly District 33. So we know that's going to be on your agenda. The Flight Alliance of Northeast Nevada has been formed. They're meeting regularly. I think you probably have conversations with, if not Jan Baum, Jim Foster from the Elko Regional Airport,
yes.
Right?
Yes.
So feel confident about that one going forward?
I do, but then I was confident last time.
Well, but it's about, again, relationships. We talked about that. You probably feel like maybe you earned a little. You got, by voting positively on the stadium, right, Bert? I mean, you took a chance on that.
I did.
But that might buy you some credibility with some of the lawmakers you need to work with across the aisle.
Hope so. Mm-hmm. I hope just not that vote. There's a lot of things we did together. We worked on the wild horse thing. Worked on with a lot of Democrats. The other side of the aisle. They were very positive in helping with that. So there are a lot of relationships that were built. Lobbyists. I think I said it one of the times on here after the session. Without them, I know they get a bad rap, and I know it looks bad in a lot of cases. But like I said to every one of them when I first met them, when they came into my office, if you lie to me and I find out, you're done. And I only had one that I had problems with. I had another one I had to talk to quite a bit just to make sure they understood the program. But if I have the bad information when I walk into a meeting, I can't do my job. I'll do it wrong, let's put it that way. But if I have both sides of an argument, then I get to do what I'm being hired to do, and that's make a decision that's positive for the people in Nevada.
Well, and I think that's really key what you just said, Bert, is that in order to have both sides of the argument, you have to talk to both sides, and you cannot assume, and you can't just go with, a closed loop or just what social media. That's why you're visiting communities.
Sure.
And you're looking at things firsthand.
Yeah, there's what do they call it? The R3 pump storage project in White Pine County. Have you heard of that, Lori?
Yeah, I think we drove past that on the way to Vegas recently. Or is there a site for it? Or
not yet. Well,
it's up by the Ely prison, right?
No,
okay.
It's this one's just south of McGill.
Oh, okay.
And what they're going to do, or what their proposal is to, on that ridge that runs to the east, build a lake up there.
Oh, that's right. Their
and
lighting
then pump
issue.
water up to there, and then store it and use it as a water-generated electricity storage area.
Now I'm starting to think about it. Okay.
And I've listened to their side. One of their lobbying group has talked to me a lot. And both sides are trying to make me say what I really believe in it. And I'm going, not until everybody gets their ducks in a row and tells me everything.
You don't have an opinion on it, is what you're saying. You haven't formed an opinion yet.
No. But what scares me about it is they're talking 500 people for 7 years in Ely. They don't have the infrastructure in Ely. They don't have the housing. They don't have
their
anything.
Schools are 100 years old. We just talked about that.
Well, they're elementary school.
Okay.
Their high school is a lot newer than that, but the elementary school is. And truly, they don't have any contractors in Ely that can fit it. I brought that up to their leader of the group, and he said, "Oh, we've got it fixed." I said, "Well, then show me. Prove it to me, because it's a scary issue. You know, I've grown up in this boom-bust economy. And if you have a small community like what Ely is, and you dump 500 people in it, it changes the dynamic dramatically. And then you pull them out and you have 30 people working." He corrected me and said, "No, it'll be 35. I said, "Oh, okay, 5 more people." But now you've got 400 or 200 residences that you had to build, and the infrastructure to them. What are you going to do with that? We've got it all worked out. Well, I haven't heard back. So my decision on that one is still out, and it's going to be the decision of the people of Ely, not me. Mm-hmm. What do they want?
Right. And hearing from them.
Yeah. And last week in Alamo, I found out another project that's going to be good for White Pine County, or for Lincoln County. It's called Sixco. And these people have come up with a process to harvest pinyon juniper trees, and in some kind of process to compress them and take gases out and everything. It's called green methane when they get done. And they have a contract with Denmark to sell it to them. And they said the other night that Denmark doesn't throw anything away. They have no landfills in Denmark. They have processes way advanced of what we've got in the United States to reuse everything they take. And this green energy thing is just, the green methane, they just love it. So, but as with any great project, there's some opposition to that in Alamo too. The lady sitting there saying, "Well, you know, you're going to bring a subdivision in?" "Oh yeah, we're going to build a subdivision, and they've got the plans. I've seen them." They said, "Yeah, we are." "Well, that means you're going to have people live here." "Yeah. That means our taxes are going to go up." My point is simply that no good project and no bad project is all good or bad. They all have possibilities, and everybody's got opposition to everything. So that's why I travel around and listen.
Weighing out all those are some projects that I don't think local listeners were aware of, Bert. So thanks for
probably not.
Yeah, bringing those to our attention. Well, something that we are well aware of is also something that you worked on in AB 519, and that's funding for rural schools. I was on hand for the groundbreaking in Owyhee. Have to say it was kind of strange to see the Hansons there, only because that didn't used to be their district.
It wasn't.
No. So. Some strange posturing going on, if I may say. Bert, is that a fair thing to say?
I would guess. I wasn't there, but...
Right. And the governor was there, and he enjoyed that. I think that, it truly made him happy to see the community happy.
He asked me the night before if I was going to be there, and I said, "I don't think so. It looks like it's going to rain and snow, and no."
Yeah.
He said, "Well, you should be there." And I said, "Yeah, I should, but I'm not, it's not my district anymore."
Yeah, that's tough, Bert.
So you were asking the question about 519.
Yeah, that's the rural schools funding piece. Now, yes. So, and some people call it the Owyhee bill, but in all fairness, it should provide funding for all rural schools, or at least a matching grant.
Yeah, and it provides $25 million for the native populations in their schools. Up to $25 million, but you have to have matching funds to get it, and then $25 million for everybody else. And that got thrown in at the last minute so that it'd pass. That had nothing to do with the $65 million for 300 students part of the bill.
So what was going on behind the scenes with that, Bert?
A whole lot of posturing, like you said, and Alexis Hansen has a big heart, a nice lady, and Ira, he's a good guy, and he's a good senator, and he's a good Republican. They got, in my opinion, sold a bill of goods initially because the school was, quote unquote, built on a hydrocarbon plume. And it was not. And if it was something the Indians created. The Army Corps of Engineers went in and certified that it was okay. So that's their first jump. And when they got up there, they saw the ceilings, and they were not good, and bats, and so the building was no longer habitable, which I've been told now they're going to convert into some kind of community center. So the building that wasn't habitable for kids is now going to be their community center. There's just a lot of issues, and that's one of the lobbyists lobbying groups that did not play straight. And they told us things, and I've got it on my phone in emails, texts, that they were going to do this and this and this. And when it came out, the bill didn't do this and this and this. So I have some heartburn over it. I don't have heartburn in taking care of the kids. I don't. But I have heartburn in the way it went down. And so I still, and I probably shouldn't be saying this out loud, but the way the bill went, when you ask me the process behind the scenes, that's something you don't really want to watch very often. It can get ugly.
We do know Elko County's pushing back, right, in the suit,
Yes,
a
filed a
lawsuit.
suit.
I don't know that it's been filed yet, but they're going to push back against that provision to try to have it stripped. Which I mean, it's after the fact, so I'm not sure.
I'm not sure it carries any weight anymore.
Right.
But initially, that was going to be pulled out. There's the area that we got lied to. They were going to take it out of the bill because
It was mandating Elko County specifically.
Yes,
Yeah, we just
and
want to be
it
sure.
didn't say Elko County specifically in it. It used a population cap and a population floor, and the only county in Nevada that fit was Elko. So in discussing that with their lobbyist, I said, I'm pretty sure that the school already, or the county already has money that they can put toward that, because we still had at least 25 cents of the pay-as-you-go tax sitting there. And I said, I think that'll work if you guys being the group he was working for, will agree to take the pop cap and the pop floor out, and I can get Elko to agree to do that without a big fight, then let's take it out and let's get the deal done. Okay, we'll write it that way.
And you were the representative then? Or you were?
I was still we were working on the bill.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't representing that part of the district, but I was
how kind of
representing
you.
Elko County.
Yeah, you were. Okay.
And I spent a day and a half. One of the weekends, Lee was able to come down there from Friday night till Sunday about noon on the phone between them and our county commission, because I can't do a circular meeting with them. So individually had to talk to them, and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And it was a pretty emotional fight for me. And as it turns out, the end or the result is going to be good, I think. I hope. Can we build that school for $65 million? That's debatable at this point. But I know that the charter school could have built their school for 400 kids for somewhere under $18 million. That's the bid they had on it. So why are we doing $65 million on a school that serves 300 kids?
And I'm not sure do they pay prevailing wage?
They're going to have to.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's prevailing wage,
Sure.
and it's also very isolated. I mean, I guess they really have to bring in everything a great distance.
Well,
I'm not
Boise,
saying.
no.
I'm not saying that.
It's all going to come out of Boise for
Yeah.
the most part. Some of the
But-
dirt work I heard was going to be done by.
Idaho National Guards donated it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
there's no contractor involved there,
right.
and that's a major project.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
So that does bring us to prevailing wage. And I know that, were there any changes to prevailing wage, Bert, at that last, because at the very end of the session?
No, I don't recall any.
So
Prevailing wage
there's no
is still
cap.
what.
Yeah. No. So you still have to, I mean, if you're a nonprofit and you want to do a prevailing wage project, you can still do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're a nonprofit and don't want to pay prevailing wage, you have to jump through the hoops, but you can still do that too.
Okay. Because we know that
As far as I can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was no real discussion over prevailing wage in any of the committees I was in, and I don't recall a bill coming through that way.
Okay. And it might have been something in the Senate too, honestly, but I think it was early on because the community was really concerned of how it would impact the construction of a pool to begin with. So we talked about some state issues, obviously, as Bert Gurr's making his travels around rural Nevada in places like White Pine and Lincoln County, the district that he represents. Again, didn't get to Owyhee, but that's not your district. It's the strangest little sliver that was carved out, and Democrats did the redistricting. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. So
I don't understand what they did. They took at Carlin, they wanted to take Carlin out, but they moved over to the west and just took the north portion of Eureka County, and then drew the line up through there, and then went up through Independence Valley. And the Morai Ranch, there's brother lives on one side, brother lives on the other. One's in her district, one's in my district. Went up and hit the Indian reservation, and then split it out. So it made no sense at all. And then gave me the north and western portion of Pahrump, all the way down to the California border, all of Lincoln County, which wasn't in it before. So it's insane.
Something to be considerate of going into this session. I know that you had a proposal. You were signed on to AJR 4 to amend the Constitution to create an independent redistricting commission. That has not been successful, though.
No.
So,
and as long as we have a very predominant one-party rule in the legislature in Carson City, that will never change. Because I don't care whether it's us, the Republicans, or the Democrats in charge. We're going to try and make it best for us for the next 10 years.
Burt Gurr is our local lawmaker in Assembly District 33. He is running unopposed, and so you won't find him on the primary ballot, but you will come November. And I don't know if we got to all the issues you were hoping to
today.
There
was one other one I'd like to talk about briefly.
Please, take your time.
We have some serious issues on our border towns. Jackpot in particular. Wendover's not as bad. And Ely isn't a border town, but we have the issue there too. And that's over licensed contractors being able to do work. Jackpot is 45 miles from Twin Falls, but a licensed, bonded contractor from Idaho can't come into Jackpot and do work for people. They have to get a license in Nevada to come and do that. And licensure in Nevada is more difficult than I've been told in most western states. So there's a big issue over that. Wendover is the same way, but they have a contractor that has a Nevada license in Wendover. So they at least have a building contractor.
It could be a sub.
Yeah, and he can hire subs out of other states, which a lot of people here do too. Mm-hmm. But it's a big problem for them. If they need something fixed, it's a 125-mile drive. And I've met with the local loosely formed contractors group here. And the three people that were in the room were all, okay, we get it. We'll go up there if the job's big enough. Sure you will. So would I. But they also are thinking far enough ahead, and I appreciated their thoughts, that they would be willing to back off that if we could get so we didn't make it statewide, and we could just get an area-specific exemption.
Would it be reciprocal? I mean, so are you going that far, or?
Well, no, because unless they change our licensing structure, it mm-hmm. wouldn't be you couldn't reciprocate because our rules are different.
And we don't know what building codes they're on, for example.
Well, they're all on national building codes, but they're maybe a little more specific in Nevada and a little tougher. Mm-hmm. But they could come across the border if we did, and this is a horrible way to say it, a red zone. But a zone around like Jackpot, so they could come down and do things, but that if there was a big development up there or something, they would have to meet, or, there's a lot of little tricky parts to that.
Making some allowances.
Sheldon Mudd has been working on it for a long time, and he brought it to me, and they're looking for some legislation that would allow that. And if we can't do it by regulation, which could be the easiest way, mm-hmm. then we'll attempt to fix the border problems with legislation.
And Sheldon, of course, is a Northeastern Nevada Regional Development Authority director, so
right.
Yeah, so he's well aware of.
Well, yeah, he's got a whole brochure about it. Mm-hmm. Got me some copies, and I didn't bring anything in with me. But those issues, again, are pretty specific. And like I said at the start of this, it isn't that your work stops the day you leave the building. It's your work just begins because of all the stuff you did to people during that session. Then you got to find out what the problems really are and where you go. There was another really quick, really silly issue. Not silly. There's a veteran in Battle Mountain that put a flagpole up in his yard. And he got charged on his taxes for having a flagpole. On his property taxes. It's part of the property, and he got charged for it. But the value they put on the flag for taxation was either 2 or 3 times more than it cost him to put it in. So he's in Alexis Hansen's district. He contacted Alexis, he contacted me, and I jumped all over it because I got a flagpole in my front yard too, and I'm not a veteran, but it's there. My neighbors all around us have flagpoles. I don't know that we have any specific carve-out for those poles. And talking to the local assessor, she just says it's a nightmare. I don't know, Bert. We tried to fight it a couple sessions ago because it's more effort than it's worth to add all that in. So that's an issue that it's one of the silly ones. One of the bills I'm going to push, though, fairly hard, is to make the pecan the Nevada drink.
Oh, a pecan punch, a Basque drink.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Do we
one
have
of the
a
lobbyists.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
we don't have a Nevada
All right.
drink.
You don't
One
have
of the
to move on.
lobbyists that worked with last session came to me and said, Bert, would you push this? Write the bill, and let's see, I got 10 this time I can do. I think that's 10 too many. I don't think we need new laws, but if you can do silly stuff like make the pecan the Nevada national drink or whatever you want to call it, I'd be happy with that.
I guess we'll put Elko on the map for another
way.
good tourism
Another
reason.
way, yeah.
Right. Well, I guess in closing, I was just going to ask if there was anything on the election front that you're looking forward to. We do know our county clerk is, already being attacked somewhat online and in public meetings from a person who is questioning the integrity of the election, and that will be her opponent in the election, Bert. So any thoughts on the election, either locally or otherwise?
Any election like that one, but any election where somebody has been vocal about what's wrong, they need to get in there and find out. And I've said this to that other person. You need to go in and find out. And if that takes you getting elected, and maybe you can do a better job and maybe you can't, go for it.
So are you supporting the challenger?
Yes. I told her I would, so I'm not backing off that. And I'm supporting her because I do believe she's smart. I do believe she's intelligent. I do believe she's going to learn a lot when she goes in there, just like all of us. And it's like the guy that ran for the clerk in Nye County, Mark Kempf.
I don't even think he's there anymore, Bert.
He resigned.
Yeah. So,
and I wonder why.
But do we want that? That turmoil in the county
Well,
clerk's office
you
sounds
don't
terrible.
need the turmoil, but you need to let people run where they need to go. And if they can't get there, okay, you don't have any turmoil.
But do you believe her claims, though, about denying the aspects of the election?
No. No, we haven't been able to prove anything one way or the other here. And this clerk that's in there now wasn't the one that was there during the election. So using that against her is kind of bad politics.
Well, she was in the office, but she
was
wasn't
in the
the
office,
clerk.
but she wasn't in charge.
She was a deputy clerk.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I've told myself and I've told other people that I'd stay out of endorsements until after the primary, but there's no primary in this one, from what I can see. But still, everybody that thinks they want to run ought to run.
Fair enough, Bert.
And
Yeah.
if we could get everybody informed before they ran, then we probably wouldn't have as many people run for office. But you can't learn it until you're there. And once you're there, you go, maybe I didn't know as much as I thought I did. And I'm afraid that's what's going to happen with some of these people that are running for office now if they get elected. They just, if you're not in that office working every day and knowing it, you're going to find out a lot of things that will change your opinion, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Just
yeah,
like you when you went to the legislature.
just like when I went to the legislature. My opinion hadn't changed a whole lot, but I found out a lot of reasons why it should, or why other people were so upset. I'm not upset about it one way or the other. Let's just go to work. And that's what I'm telling everybody that wants to run. And I really don't like endorsing in a primary. It's just not, unless I truly believe in the person, and then I would endorse. But I want to see both sides of everybody, what they're doing out there before I go there. Because you don't know. And what does it say? You don't know what you don't know?
Yeah. Happens every day to me.
Yeah, it's happening too much to me.
Oh, Bert. Well, thank you. I know our listeners appreciate the time, and I know you'll be back because we got a slow start because you were putting several thousand miles in your pickup truck. So
Yeah, a lot of miles.
Yeah, but we'll have you back, and
We'll catch up on all those local issues or district issues.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Yes, and
I
safe
appreciate
travels.
the time too.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lori.